Well, hello, COVID time friends. How are y'all doing today? Today's Thursday. We'd just like to welcome you all to Coffee Time. We got a lot of new folks, and we just want to say welcome and thank you for joining us. And for you folks that's been with us, thank you for staying with us. We appreciate each and every one of y'all. We want to start out today with just saying how sorry we was to hear of the passing of the Queen, and that we just our prayers are with the family and with the country and with the world, because she was a dynamic force in the world. It wasn't just the royal family, it wasn't just Europe, and it wasn't just she my whole life. I mean, she was on the throne for 70 years. What a wonderful accomplishment. And we just want to say our prayers are definitely with the family. She was our queen, but she was their grandmother, their mother, and their family, just like we have family. I mean, it's a personal thing, and we are truly sorry. And we just want to start out by honoring her by saying we certainly was saddened to hear of her passing, and surprised. Even if she was 96, she seemed like someone who would be here forever. I mean, it was just hard to even grasp the idea that she had passed. So, but anyway, we just wanted to say that and to start off today by just paying a little tribute to her and saying she will be missed, and she was such a great leader, and I think she brought comfort and assurance to the world. So, but we certainly will keep them in our prayers. I mentioned the other night about tomato pie, that I hadn't made one this whole season, and I told Mama today, I said, let's make tomato pie. We got 2 or 3 things going on here today, folks. Mama started some soup beans this morning, and we're going to share those with a friend of ours, and a very special friend of ours. He loves them, and he doesn't have anybody to fix them, so Mama likes to fix them every once in a while, and he's going to be coming over today, and it's just a wonderful opportunity. So we'll probably eat those tomorrow. I'll eat them tomorrow. I ate them for lunch today. They weren't quite ready, though. You know how the beans are a little hard, but still soft enough to eat?
I can't believe you ate them like that.
I ate them anyway, because they were soft enough to eat, even though they weren't done. But they were good. And I did say a small bowl. I didn't eat a lot, but they were good. I'm docking this pie shell. This is a store-bought shell. And by docking, I'm just poking holes in the bottom. You can use a fork. I'm just using that knife blade because that's what I had. Now this pie, you can make homemade pie crust. I'm going to touch y'all down here, let y'all see. You can make a homemade pie crust if that's what you want to do. And I know a lot of times we compromise quality, because a good quality pie crust, homemade, would probably be better. But sometimes I just sort of look at it as, well, this is faster, and it'll eat. So that's just the truth of the matter. If you want to do the homemade, that's great. You can even put it in a fancy little pie shell. But I've docked this all over. Now you want to pre-bake this because you want it to not be soggy. So we're going to put this in the easy bake, and I've got it set on 350, and we're just going to bake this until it's like, don't have to be done. It just needs to have a little doneness on it, a little bit of brown. Mama, you tell them while you're doing tomato.
I'll there, and you won't have to quit talking.
No,
well, he's left.
He left you.
He's left for sure. All I'm doing is peeling him some tomatoes, getting the worst ones, trying to get them peeled up here for him. I don't know about you, but I get tomato juice all over me when I peel and do this.
Some of you may not peel yours tomatoes, but sometimes that peeling gets plasticky if you don't.
I have a hard time eating it too.
So we usually peel any cooked tomatoes that we do. Now I'm going to put these tomatoes that Mama's peeling here. It's okay, Mama. You can stab me if you want to.
I done did.
She stabbed me. Okay. We'll let that pass.
We will. We better.
She didn't hurt me. She did poke me pretty hard with it, though, folks. In case you're taking notes, or in case any of y'all are keeping a journal on how many times Mama hurts me.
I'm listening. I'm listening. You
I'm just
put
going to
your hand
slice.
in my way.
That's why you do me all the time when you're trying to get something out from under my workstation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to slice these pretty thick. I don't want them thin. And I'm doing another little trick here, and I'm going to do another trick. This recipe's full of tricks. I'm going to do another little trick in a second to show you something. So I'm putting these sliced ones in this colander. Now I'm going to read you the recipe, and of course we don't follow it, but it's just a good guideline. It's just a good rule, and we'll change it as we go. This recipe is not a recipe that... This is a recipe that I've kind of pieced together from other recipes over the ages.
Here you go.
Of things that we like and things that we have used or said, well, it would have been better if we'd done this or better if we'd done that.
You going to have enough tomatoes? Do I need to get enough?
It says 6, but I don't ever use 6. Here's the first little trick. I've just layered these in here in this little colander. And I'm going to, this is our little salt box, one of them. And I'm just going to put some kosher salt all over these tomatoes. Let me tilt you down. So I'm just going to cover them with kosher salt. Just like that. Just kosher salt. And this is going to help get some of the juice out of them. Now here's another little secret. If you're going to make tomato pie, the best tomato to use, and I know homegrown is out there and we just don't have any, the best tomato for tomato pie would be aroma, because they're not as juicy. These homegrowns, like this one right here, is really juicy. Now he's going to make this a little juicier, but I got another trick for him he don't even know about yet. Now I'm going to layer these right in here on top of those others. And then I'm going to sprinkle them with a little bit of kosher salt. Now what that kosher salt will do, that will drain a lot of that liquid out of there before we get started. And I'm going to leave these set like this while I do everything else, which will probably end up being 10 minutes or so. And they'll have time to let some of that liquid out of them. And I'm just going to sprinkle these a little bit of, because those are real juicy. I really want them to come out of there. And I'm just going to put them right over top of this bowl. Set them over here and let them be draining. Every once in a while you'll see me reach over here and I'm going to give them a little shake. And that's just to get more of this juice out of them.
Is that all the tomatoes you want?
You might do one more, Mama. One of them not so ripe ripes. One of them that's not as juicy. I can't believe I'm saying this. This is one time you don't want the juiciest tomatoes you have. I love a juicy tomato. I look for them. They're wonderful. Can y'all see what I'm up here? This is fresh basil out of the herb garden out front. And I've got some here that I'm not going to chop. Now I love fresh herbs, but they're not as pungently flavored as their dried cousins. So I'm also going to put a little dried basil. And that's going to give me a little bit more of that basil flavoring. But now this chopped, you can't beat it. You can't beat the fresh herbs. Don't go out and say that I was talking bad about them, because I'm really not. But I do combine them, okay? I do combine. And I just want to get a rough chop on these, because when you're chopping them, you're going to break up those flavors and those essential oils, and that's what's going to give you your delicious flavor. This is a simple, easy pie. Mama's over there checking our crust. It don't have to be done by any means. You just want to brown it a little bit on top, just to give it something that won't absorb all that tomato juice. So I'm going to set that chopped basil here. Just set it aside for a minute. Let me start out. I'm going to read you all the real menu. Let me go over the rules with you, and then we're going to break a few of them. Done started, but not done as many tomatoes. Now see, that pie shell was only in there that many minutes. And see, it's already brown. That's where you want it to be. But you have to dock it. You don't have to blind bake it. You don't have to put beans or anything in it. It's not going to go anywhere. I gotta have some coffee. Just Mmm. Fresh pot this evening. I love it. So you start out with a 9-inch pie shell, and that's what that was, just a home, not a home, just a store-bought pie shell. This calls for 6 large tomatoes. If you were using Roma's, that'd be about the right number. We're using 4 tomatoes. 1 tablespoon of kosher salt, and that's just to drain your tomatoes. 8 ounces of shredded mozzarella cheese, but you can use cheddar, you can use Gouda, you can use provolone, any cheese you want. 1/2 cup of mayonnaise, 1/4 cup of fresh basil chopped, 1/4 teaspoon garlic minced, 1/4 teaspoon of regular table salt. This is for the flavoring of the filling. 1/8 teaspoon ground black pepper, an 8-ounce cream cheese softened. Now, some of them don't have cream cheese. That's the pinto beans. I'm getting a little excited over there. But this recipe that we use, we put cream cheese in it. So I guess you could count that as one of our cheeses. And like I said, we're not using 6 whole tomatoes. I mean, it's just a 9-inch pie shell. But if you're going to use Roma's, then I would probably use about 6 of those. So let's get on with the business of the business. So I'm going to start with my cream cheese softened. And I'm going to put it right in the bowl. In the bowl it go. Let me get me a spatula. Spatula. So the directions read, preheat your oven to 350 and pre-bake your pie crust. We've already done that rule, and we did it right. Then it says to cut your tomatoes to 1/4 thickness. We did. Put in the colander and add kosher salt, and we did. And then it says to shake it and leave it in there about 20 minutes and shake it regularly. Now, what you're doing there is you're getting the liquid you can out of the tomatoes. You can take a paper towel, press down on them too. Now see, this is just a peeled tomato. That green on there is a little bit of basil, ain't gonna hurt nothing. You don't want thin slices because these are going to bake. And of course you know they're going to wilt down a little bit. So you want to start out with something that you can substance to it, because if not, it'll bake away to nothing. Look what a beautiful tomato when I sliced it. So that's going to go over here in the tomato party. Put it right in here. Ooh. Wet tomatoes will pick up a lot of basil. Okay. And now,
I start saying ideas on that.
yeah. Now I'm going to put just a little bit more of this kosher salt over them. And this just helps them to start releasing that little bit of juice. But now remember that salt's in there. So when you're adding salt later, you want to add very little. Now there's already quite a bit of juice down there. And I'll shake it down like this every once in a while. And we're going to let that set for a little while there. So let's come back over here. Ooh, tomatoes. Got a low battery. How did that happen? I plugged in earlier. So we may have to put the charger on in a second. It'll give me another warning and I'll put the charger on. Okay, so this is my cream cheese in here. And then it calls for a 1/2 cup of mayonnaise.
Just going to use your measuring cups out.
Do I have to use them?
Well, not if you don't want to.
I'm not going to use it. I'm going to do a 1/2 cup by eyeballing it. I've made this. I know what a 1/2 cup of mayonnaise looks like.
Go ahead.
He says.
I picked up that basil and it sure is strong.
So we put our 1/2 cup of mayonnaise. We've got our mozzarella cheese.
Oh, no, I don't. Mozzarella.
Yeah, mozzarella and a little bit of that cheddar. That sharp cheddar just gives it one more little punch of flavor. Our fresh basil goes in now. Fresh basil.
Mozzarella opened in here. Here it is. I kept getting a new pack hold of it.
Okay, our fresh basil goes in. And then our other spices, and we can put whatever we want in here, it says. So I'm putting in a little bit of smoked paprika, just because I like it. And it gives it a good flavor. And that's just a dash. And then I'm going to put some dried basil in here, because that's a lot of flavor.
Sharp cheddar, you say?
The dried basil smells as good as the fresh basil. And I'm just putting a shake of it in there. This is sharp cheddar, freshly grated, in this bag from the store. And that's what I like to use. I'm going to put about 1/4 cup of cheddar. And because it's so delicious, I'm going to put about 1/2 cup of mozzarella. And that's going to give this a wonderful little flavor. I keep calling them baked beans. We just made baked beans the other night. The pinto beans, all we do to those, we look them. Of course, you have to look them. We wash them and put a little salt and a little bacon grease in them, and we boiled them. They've been boiling since about 12:30. 12:30, and that's what we've done with them. So in goes the minced garlic. Now, if you are not allergic to it or it doesn't bother you, and you all want to, you feel free to use garlic powder. You'd have the same flavor profile.
I don't know which is the strongest, the garlic or the basil, right?
I'm just putting a little bit in there. You'll have the same flavor profile with powder. You just, it's just a little different. And I have to put natural seasoning. It's by law. I don't know. We have to put natural seasoning everything we could. And I'm just going to put a shake of that in there. And it does have some garlic something in it. But it's never made me sick. And it does have some onion in it. So that's just a multiple layering of flavors. And this is just table pepper. And I'm just going to put a good healthy pinch in there. We like black pepper really good, don't we, Mama? And for salt, I love these antique salt shakers. They've got the pour and the sprinkle right here on the table. And I'm going to put 1/2 teaspoon of salt in there. Now remember, you've got salt on your tomatoes. And that's all that I'm going to put in here. Let's check our ingredients. It says cream cheese, mayo, basil, and other spices of your liking, such as smoked paprika. You can add chili to this. And then you want to stir that up and then layer it into your pie crust. And all those seasons I added, you don't have to add any of those, and it's good. But I do like to have a little flavor in there. So I'm just going to mix this up. This is the cream cheese, the mayo.
Is that all the cheddar you
Well, we might want a little bit more. You want to run off with it?
I was going to put it up. You used all the other bit.
All the what? Mozzarella?
Yeah, no.
No, it's right here. I hid it from you because I just laid it over there on the other side. So can y'all see what I'm doing here? Now I can smell that fresh basil and that other basil, that dry basil, both in here. And it's wonderful. And just stirring it around. You just want to make sure it's all mixed up really good. Y'all can find... Mama, I interrupted myself, sorry. Do you want me to put a green onion in here? We do sometimes we don't.
Whatever you want.
You've got one right there if you want me to chop it up, and it will add another layer of flavor. So green onion is something we normally put on ours, and I forgot about it, and it's not in these rules. I do have another recipe it makes it thicker, and you kind of roll it out and put it on top. This one is not that way. I found this one after I started making the other one. And Mama's getting Mama, you'll have to bring my knife. No, here it is. Oh, you didn't take my knife. You took your knife. Now, I'm going to... See those tomatoes? A lot of that juice is coming out of them. And I'm going to take a paper towel or a napkin here and pat them as I put them in there. Then I'm going to show you the other secret. The other secret is cornstarch. And you know how we always put cornstarch on whatever we dredge. Put in buttermilk and so on. Now the other recipe I have, I think I even put my tomatoes in buttermilk just like you do to bake them. But this one you don't. So I'm going to get some cornstarch in a little bowl here. Mom, would you get a little bit of cornstarch just to dredge with?
That's so real.
And I'm going to dredge these tomatoes in cornstarch before I put them in my shell. Now, what that cornstarch is going to do is it's going to take care of the rest of the liquid that the salt didn't take care of. And it's going to keep our pie, tomato pie, from being too liquidy. Have you ever made tomato pie and it's kind of like a wet quiche or something in your shell? Even if you pre-bake your shell, it'll get too moist. So that's the other little secret. And I told you that real juicy tomato, he didn't know that was coming. Because I'm going to dredge him. And I'm doing blade and all. Mom always washes the blade. And see, it's just a little bit here. Just a little bit of green onion. And I'll use the rest of that fresh basil. Clean that knife off. And that's it. And I'm going to... Oh, that smells so good. If you don't like tomatoes, I don't know what you'd do instead of, but I would consider making this filling and putting it in a pie crust and just eating it like a quiche. You might even add a few eggs to it and make a quiche with this. Don't know. I'm making that part up. I ain't never done it. I'm just saying what you could do, probably. But we love tomatoes. So here is our baked pie shell. It's not done, but see, it's good and brown, and it's got a... Can y'all hear that? It's got a good layer for that to be on, okay? Thank you, Mama, for the cornstarch. Now, what you do is you take your paper towel, napkin.
Paper towels do that. Napkin,
You don't like these? Mama says use a paper towel. Don't use a napkin. What was I thinking?
Paper towel is stronger.
Okay, I agree with you.
There's texture is better for that.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the paper towel, and I'm just going to blot. Don't worry about taking some salt off or any of that, because that's not really a problem anyway. And I'm just going to blot these tomatoes up, and I'm just going to lay them in here.
You're going to roll them first?
Oh, yeah. Of course, Mama. I was just checking. I thought, let me lay that in there and see if Mama notices I did.
Sure.
This cornstarch, cornstarch will take that out, and it won't. It'll just thicken the whole batter a little bit. Blot. Dip. You can use flour if you'd rather, and you can overlap. You can overlap these. See, I just don't think that.
That basil on there's throwing me off.
I know you wouldn't like that, Mama. I just don't think 6 tomatoes would fit in a 9-inch shell on these kind. I think the recipe
is for Romas.
It's for Romas. I didn't write Roma.
Johnny made a mess.
It's a good thing we have aprons on.
Yeah, well, we sure needed them tonight.
Why did we forget that?
I don't know. Trying to get everything ready, I guess.
Just trying to be in a hurry. So I'm just blotting these off, dipping them in a little bit of cornstarch. That way, if you do have any seepage, it will come right off, and it'll have somewhere to go. And I'm gonna. Now here's this really, really, really red one, really ripe one. I may save some of him for the top.
Here, these are
not as ripe.
Yeah.
Just get a little bit more of that moisture off. And I'm going to tuck this one right here in the middle. Can y'all see that? Okay. So that's all of that for now. And then I'm going to layer. Now see, this is pretty liquidy. Well, not liquid, but pretty soft to spread. Just going to spread him right in there on top of those tomatoes. See, I don't know how you would do, personally, more tomatoes. I've even got a note on here, may not take that many tomatoes. And I've got, I'm going to put a note on here, Romas would work. But this does spread easily in here. Now, you can make this as a side, I guess. that this is going to be our main dish tonight, but we can eat pinto beans if we want to. Now, our friend, he likes biscuit bread with
he really likes biscuits best.
Biscuits? So you going to do biscuits or biscuit?
No, I'm just going to fix a pound of biscuit bread for him.
Pound bread.
To take with him.
And once again, I'm going to just roll these in here. The really wet ones, they need, but this is kind of wet too now.
There's been a lot of juice coming out.
There's a lot comes out of more than you would think. You'd think, it ain't that much. There's a lot in there, folks. The cornstarch will keep your pie firm, though. That's one good thing. There's one more or two maybe in there that's not as red and ripe. Just place them in there. Ooh, he is juicy.
Now this one's,
He would be good on bologna.
this one's a good one.
That's a good firm one.
And here's a piece.
Now don't be afraid to push these down in there. When you go, give them a good little tug. That's what they need. They need a firm holding down in that shell. Here's one more firm one, and the rest of those are those bright red ones.
Yeah, that's going to be...
But that worked out just right because... What is it?
The oven, I didn't set the oven long enough. It's went off.
Oh, we'll put it on 350. We're going to put this in there for about 20 minutes or until brown and bubbly. So this is the second layer, tomato. And now I'm going to top it with the rest of my filling. Right on top. I want to get every delicious bit of that I can because we're going to need it for this pie. There's more on them sides than you may realize. And then you get to try to get this spread out. Isn't it? Just like it there. Don't worry if your few tomatoes show through. It ain't gonna hurt a thing because we're fixing to show you something else right now. Now, you could bake that just like it is without a worry in the world. But I'm going to put the rest of these bright red beauties right here on my board. And I'm just going to give them a good rough chop. Try to you want big pieces. That'll help get rid of some of that juice as well. And then I'm going to stroll them all over the counter.
Look at that right there. There's a lot.
There's quite a bit of water come out of them. There's a good half a cup in there. I'm going to stroll them all over the counter here, whether I want to or not. This is just cornstarch, remember. I'm just going to stir them up in this cornstarch to get rid of a lot of that juice. Get rid of a lot of that juice. Just like that. Then I'm going to take our sharp cheddar. Just going to top it lightly. And I'm going to take a little bit of mozzarella. You won't be able to see the mozzarella, but it's going to be a good little topping. Just like this.
Now you want that in there for 20 minutes, right?
Yes, ma'am. Well, approximately. Then I'm just going to layer these tomatoes all over the top. Don't do this if you want to be all nice and neat, because anytime you deal with tomatoes, you've got to slop them to do. just like this, all over. This is something good to take to a picnic or church event, because a lot of people won't make this. A lot of people don't make these. They're a little intimidated by tomato pie. Depends on the recipe you use. They can be a little bit more to them. So now this has got that little bit of cornstarch on it, but they're going to turn back into beautiful tomatoes. And this is fresh basil. I'm just going to add, these have already wilted up, curled under.
That's Corey.
Had them laying over here.
Laid over and no water on them.
Yeah. Sure is, Mama. And I'm just putting whole leaves on here. Just for looks, and it'll add some flavor.
I can smell it strong.
It's wonderful.
You can tell it's fresh. Whew.
Then when that bakes and bubbles and all that settles back down, it'll be something pretty to look at. Because we eat with our eyes first. I know y'all hear that all the time. I used to think, why do people say that? But that's the truth. If it don't look good, you ain't going to eat it. That's like when they had clear Coca-Cola that time. It was tasted all right, but it wasn't the same to me or a lot of other people. We eat with our eyes. We eat what we expect. We taste what we expect. That's the reason. Isn't it funny how you can taste something that's perfectly normal, but it tastes funny to you if you was expecting something else? Like if you were expecting lemonade and it was milk, that milk would taste awful because your brain was ready for lemonade. Now, folks, there it is. When that comes out, it's going to be pretty and it's going to taste delicious. So that's supper tonight in a pie shell. Mama, you want to add it in or you want me to put it in?
I'm going to set it down.
And I'll start cleaning because I have made a huge mess. I've got tomatoes. I've got basil. I've got stuff everywhere. Now, some of these basil leaves here, I'll pick them off and I'll let them dry, and then I'll crumble them up and put them in a Tupperware container and have fresh basil whenever I need it. Dried fresh basil. Let's talk. Let's see what y'all are up to. Hi, John and Mama. Hey, Kathy. Look at all those beautiful smiley faces. Hey, Nancy. How are you? Hey, Miss Donna. Do y'all have any questions about the tomato pie? It's easier for me to answer your questions about it on here than it is for me to try to individually answer. What was the filling, and it needs some more seasoning? Well, we don't use a lot of seasoning. Mama's not big on that seasoning. The filling is, you put it in a 9-inch pie shell, and it's 6 tomatoes. That was 4 large ones. You can use 6 Romas. 1 teaspoon of kosher salt on those tomatoes just to get them to drain. 8 ounces of shredded mozzarella cheese or cheddar cheese. So I put about a half a cup of each. A half a cup of mayonnaise. 1/4 cup of fresh basil chopped. If you want to use all dried, use about a half a tablespoon or a tablespoon, whatever you feel like you want. A half a teaspoon of garlic, I use minced. 1/4 teaspoon of salt, that's just regular table salt in your mixture. The kosher salt goes on the tomatoes. 1/8 teaspoon of ground black pepper, or to taste, and then an 8-ounce cream cheese softened. And that's all the filling is. And I put smoked paprika and a little bit of nature's seasoning.
Here, you can.
Yes, ma'am. Smoked paprika for flavor and some nature's seasoning in it. And I put some dry basil too. So all those things I just added extra, but you do you. I've got stuff all over me. And add whatever flavors you want. If you want some cayenne in it, that would be good. If you want some Frank's Red Hot sauce put in it, that would be good too. You can make it as spicy or as little as you want. What was the filling? That's it, Tina. That was it. I have seen him stand and cook. Oh, Lord, is somebody worried about me standing? Folks, I don't stand because if I stand, you can't see me. I've had all kinds of comments this past week about chewing. John, do you chew your food? Yeah, folks, I chew my food. There's always somebody to say negative comments or something. That's not what we're about. And I can stand. The Lord has blessed me to stand, and I can walk, and I walk around places all the time. And when I'm cooking and you all aren't here, most of the time I'm standing over there in that corner working, and Mama's standing over here on this side working. So this is just for the video.
I never said.
She stands. That's about the height I am. So just to get everything in this little camera, this is the way we work it out. But people get all tore up over things. Folks, y'all really need to just enjoy and have fun and be stress-free and not worry about all those little things. And if you do worry about them, just don't comment on them. And then we'll get arguments going in there. And I don't like any of that. We want everything to be positive and uplifting. That's not what it's all about. And if you think it is, you're on the wrong channel. This is not about that. This is about enjoying and stress-free and no controversy.
That's right.
So we don't do that. But yeah, I can stand. But thank y'all for worrying about me that's out there. And I chew my food. So if you're worried about it, I had 2 or 3 the other night, I guess when I was eating more from John, do you? Yes, I chew my food. How's she going to get it down? I just think it's funny sometimes, the stuff that people focus on and worry about. They don't even worry about the food. They worry about, are you chewing, or what are you doing, or all those kind of things. Or can you stand? Yes, John can stand. I just walked over there and put that shell in there a while ago. Watch the video at the beginning in case you thought I couldn't. All right, folks, that is the pie. Now, if y'all want to wait on it, it's going to take you about 20 minutes. Or we can come back with a part 2, and I can show you the rest of it. Or, Mama, if you want to do the biscuit bread, since time is coming on the end here.
Well, I'll need the oven, or have to empty and fix it in the big oven. I guess I'll just wait a few minutes because I don't want to wet it and it set.
Yeah, you don't want to let biscuit bread set because it'll rise and fall, then it'll be tough. You don't want no tough biscuits. All right, any questions about the food, maybe I should say? Let's see. Tomato pie looks awesome. It is, Loretta. You'll love it. And right now is the best time to fix it. But now let me tell you this. I have made this tomato pie in February. With canned diced tomatoes. You just drain them real well, put your little kosher salt on them, let that liquid come out of them, and it's just as good. So this is one of those things you don't have to have fresh tomatoes. And if you only have a few and you got those labeled for bologna sandwiches, use your canned ones. They're fine. They taste good in it, don't they, Mama? A good brand, or we use our store brand, and it's not just the brand on the can, it's the flavor. If you've tried it and you think it's a good tomato, use it in your tomato gravy, use it in your tomato pies. It's a blessing to have good store-bought canned tomatoes. A lot of things store-bought canned don't taste as good as home. Tomatoes is one of those things that's pretty good. Right now, in the world of canning, they're canning those tomatoes. They're getting them ready for winter time, so when winter gets here, we'll still have fresh summertime tomatoes to eat. Thank the good Lord. We use a lot of those diced tomatoes. Reran to get the recipe. I joined late. Jan, I'll read it to you one more time before we leave, and you can get your pen and paper. Nola will probably post it later as well. Thank you for those stars, Stevie. Usually she posts as we're going, or she'll ask me if that's right, and I'll say it's good to post, and she'll post it afterwards. So most everything we cook, we either have an old recipe we can post in there where we have cooked it before, or if it's something that we haven't cooked before, or something like today we changed, Nola puts the changes in there and does it that way. Thank you, Derek, for the stars. We appreciate that. Angela, tomatoes are my favorite. Mine too, Angela. Yeah. Love them. Hey, Wilma, how are you? Hey, Pam, tomato pie is so good. It is. And I'm ashamed to report this is my first one this season. We don't eat a ton of them in even any summer, but normally I'll fix it 2 to 3 times in a summer. And normally we'll have tomato gravy. In the 90 days of summer, we'll end up having it 3 or 4 times. We've had it once, and this is my first tomato pie. But to be quite honest with y'all, we've not had a bunker crop of tomatoes.
No.
Mama normally has a kitchen table full. We have flat boxes, cardboard boxes full,
Cookie sheets.
cookie sheets, and they're laying everywhere. And nearly by the time they're gone, you're like, well, phew, at least we can get to the table. But this year's not been that here at the Davis household. Now, some of our friends around us have had different situations.
It's very strange. You talk to one person and theirs didn't do any good, and you go to the next one and
and it's messy as a 3-year-old today.
Theirs done really well and stuff. So I don't know what our problem is. I don't know if it's the water or the rain we've had or what's the problem's been this
Well,
year.
somebody theorized to me that we were too dry in the beginning and too wet in the middle and too hot
most of the time
in July. And the seasons and the stuff just didn't work out. So now I have slung tomatoes everywhere. I'm going to move that basil. Now I've poured coffee everywhere.
Oh Lord, bless your heart right here, still.
Thank goodness I didn't spill it all.
Oh, you'd have been a crying, wouldn't
Now I'd have got me some more of that pot over there. They'd have seen me walk then.
Seen you almost run, huh?
And of all times for me to forget an apron.
It's been a messy cook.
What do you say, Mama? That's live.
Yeah, it's life. Take it.
What's that on your arm, Mama?
I think that's where I touched that easy bake the other day when
Did you burn it or just hit it?
I burned it a little.
It don't look like a burn.
Well,
And this, he may need some.
okay.
We're getting a phone call, folks. The pie is going to be another minute, but it is starting to level out a little bit. That means it's starting to sink down into its shell. But it's going to be another 10 minutes, looks like. So, it's up to you all. What do we want to do? If you want us to go ahead and do a part 2, and I can show you the finished product, it just depends on what y'all want. This year, my pear trees, let's see what your pear trees didn't produce. It's something, isn't it? Well, this year I blamed it on the weather. I don't know. I think it is the weather, but here's the funny part about the weather. We had rain. I thought we did good this year on rain. We didn't have where the grass was crumbly and brown. We didn't have any periods where, it was like, whew, we're looking for rain. We had rain pretty regularly. There was some few weeks there. It was pretty dry, but we'd have a little bit of rain. When I was watering flowers every day, that was a little bit, I think it was in the 1st of June. But somebody was explaining, the plant, like on tomatoes, the plant has to have sunshine and rain to get the plant up where it needs to be. And then the blooms needs more sunshine. And then the time the fruit comes on, that's when we started having our rain, was when the fruit was coming on. And evidently that's not the best way to do it. Evidently they thought it would work out better. But I've talked to tons of people who had few beans, who had few tomatoes, cucumbers. Some people didn't have cucumbers. We did have cucumbers, but Mama had to replant them. So we didn't do corn this year, so we don't know what the corn crop would have been here. But tomatoes, I'm going to go on record as saying probably the worst tomatoes we ever had. And we planted several tomatoes, and Mama's got a few. We did finally see a few of the harvest, and hopefully we'll have a few more. But I'm telling you, usually we're canning them, we're checking them every day, and saying things like, we're going to have to get these canned, they're getting soft, or we're going to have to check these. You all that into gardening, you know what I'm talking about. But now this year we didn't have that problem at all. So it seems like it's been, everything okay?
Yeah, he just wanted to, so she wouldn't be afraid he's coming.
Oh, okay. You just wanted to make sure everything was used up, not lose anything. This year, we're just glad to see a tomato, and we've got them earmarked for bologna sandwiches and tomato sandwiches. For example, right now there's 3 tomatoes laying over here, and maybe one of those might even come from the farmer's market. So normally at this time of year, we got a table full, don't we, Mama?
Yeah.
But I'll tell you one thing. I won't take them for granted next year if we get a good harvest. I'll be thankful remembering this year. And then last year we had a pretty good harvest of them. We canned some. We done, like a normal routine with them.
We canned some, made salsa.
Made some salsa. And this year, just not had that. But that's the way it goes. That's just life, and that's just the way it goes. Sometimes you have plenty, and sometimes you have fewer. Hey, Linda. Thanks for jumping on here, Miss Linda Hyatt. I love you all. I feel so welcome. Well, thank you. That's what we want you to feel. We want you to feel that way, Linda Mosby. We want you to feel like you're just sitting here at our kitchen table with us. And that's the whole point of this whole show. We started out, first of all, the Lord truly has blessed us, because I started out just doing this just as local people as always on here, and started out Sunday School Highlights with the same way. And I mentioned the cookbooks that our church was selling them to come on over to. You'll probably find videos where it says go to the bank, pick you up a cookbook, because it was just for locals. And we had a video or two that went viral, and next thing I knew, it was growing and growing, and the Lord was blessing and blessing, and we're just so thankful, and we're thankful to have y'all. Each and every one of y'all are like family, and we invite you into the kitchen and say, pull you up a chair and make yourself at home. And really and truly, coffee time, I probably should have named it coffee break if I was going to put coffee in it, because it's not about drinking coffee, even though I do. You don't have to. I've had people ask me, not so much lately, but they say, I don't drink coffee, would I like it? I said, it's nothing to do with coffee. It's more about the time.
I don't drink it much either.
It's more about spending time and just sitting over a cup of coffee. There's a little thing that they do. We've done it at our church before, and you take a jar and you put in big rocks, and then smaller rocks, and then sand, and then something they say is, every time they ask you, is it full? They fill it up with big rocks. And they say, yeah, it's full. And then they fill it up with small gravels, little fine, and it goes all in. They go, oh, now is it full? Yeah. And then they say,
filled it with sand.
Then they say, yeah, it's full now. And then he fills it with sand. And the sand goes between all the cracks. And he says, is it full? And they say, yeah. And you pick up 2 cups of coffee and you pour it in it, and it still holds it. And he says, just remember, no matter how full and how busy your life is, you've always got time for a cup of coffee with a friend. So that's kind of the premise of our whole show. It's just a cup of coffee with a friend. And if you want to use tea or Coca-Cola or Pepsi or Mountain Dew, you feel free to. We enjoy all your all's company, and we enjoy having y'all with us. And the tomato, it says 6 more minutes. I think we can make it. If it's done in 6 minutes, it should be. I'll go there and check it and see. It says tomatoes, bread, butter, tomato sauce, dash of sugar. Tammy is telling us the recipe. Dash of sugar, salt, and pepper. Breaded tomatoes. Well, that sounds good. Tomato. Then bread. Now, we do a tomato.
Sweet tomato.
We cook it. We put sugar in it. We put light bread, crumbled up light bread, drizzle butter, and put sugar on top of that, and it makes like a crust. We call it scallop tomatoes, and my mama called it tomato dumplings.
Tomato pie.
Tomato pie.
That was her version.
That was her tomato pie.
Yeah.
Love hearing your recipe. Mama is more relaxed than she used to be on camera. Yep, she's getting better at it. Mama is, she's just full of feelings. She worries about y'all, and if y'all post a prayer request, she tries to go back and read them. She don't post a lot. She don't text. She don't do any of that stuff, but she'll tell me, did you see such and such? Did you? And I say, yes, ma'am, I did, or I didn't. Mama always prays for y'all at church. Our church, every Sunday, we put prayer requests in for you all. And Mama always puts them in, and they are always happy to pray for y'all. And they think the world of y'all, too, because y'all have supported them so much with cookbooks, and they really appreciate that. And every dime of the cookbook money that we get goes to our church, and we're going to do a fall celebration thing with our youth and our church and our community this year. A lot of that's because of you all, and we're going to be able to take them to pumpkin patch this year, and all of that's because of you all. We appreciate you all for that. We really do. And our church appreciates you, and they pray for y'all every week. You're on our prayer list. How's the beans, Mama?
Looking better.
You want to bring a sample and see if they're soft by now? They wasn't at lunchtime.
You want a sample?
I'm just going to check them for you. I don't.
You want to eat them out of them?
I'm just going to taste. I'm waiting on that tomato pie. I've got my heart set on that. Who knows? I may do a tomato pie with canned tomatoes. Just show y'all we can in a week or two. Because normally, like I said, we have it several times. These beans are darker.
They're the different brand.
They're a brand. They're called Salers. That's the brand we usually.
They are louder, but these happen to be a darker.
They're just a darker bean, but this is just a little sample of pinto beans and that good juice. What I'm testing for is to see if the beans have softened. They were soft at lunch, but if you were to put them in relationship to noodles, they would have definitely been an al dente bean.
I don't know why you ate them. I couldn't stand to eat one that wasn't soft.
I just ate about 6 beans at lunch, and I ate some juice. That's what I was after anyway.
The cheese is all melted good. I don't know how done the pie is.
Mama, these beans are as tender as your eyeball.
They are.
Mmm.
They're a little darker.
They're perfection. Okay.
Their basil cooked up.
I think it's all done, folks. The basil browned a little bit, but it's still good on there. So that's the tomato pie. The basil will probably be crunchy. Yep, it's crunchy where it rolled up. So maybe I should have added the basil now if I was wanting it to look pretty. I don't think I had fresh basil last time.
No, we didn't have it there.
I think I just used dried
Cut
basil.
it and see if it's
Let me take some of this dry basil off because now it's all dry basil.
hard basil.
I bet it tastes good though. Did you taste it, Mama?
Mm-mm.
Wow. It's got the flavor. It's so good.
It's basil, really.
No.
I reckon it is.
It's perfect. I'm going to leave it on there. It's so good. And I'm going to add some fresh on it. Just for looks. If we're going for looks here.
See if it's done. And I'll give us some.
All right, ma'am. Let's cut it. It feels like it's cutting good. Now, when I take it out, will be the... Now, you should let it cool a while. You want to let it cool just a minute, or it will be softer. And we'll go lifter. And we'll check it out. We'll see where we are with it. I ain't going to waste that dried basil because it is good. So don't put your basil on top until after you cook it. I should have realized that. Should have thought of that. But don't worry about the flavor because the flavor is definitely there even though it's good and dry. And this is the same way if you want to dry some fresh basil. Put it in your oven and on a sheet pan for a little while and let it dry and then just take it out and crumble it up and put it in a container. I want to get all that. Let me go on record as saying this probably won't cut out as it will in 20 minutes or 15.
Nope. It's not going to come out right.
Let me have that. But you can get the idea.
Good.
You can get the idea that it's not totally and completely runny. And once you let that set, it would firm up even more. And you would be able to slice it out in nice little neat pie shapes. If you let it set, you're going to have a better result. But it's definitely not runny even at this point. It just out of the oven, hot. And you see it'll hold together pretty good. I'll pull that across there. All right, Mama. You ready to sample for the folks?
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. See, it's not running together, even where I just cut some out. So you can tell that cornstarch did help to cut down on some of the liquidy portion. Get you back up here.
Oh, I thought you was talking to me.
I was talking to the camera then, Mama.
Yeah, I seen that.
Let's get you back till you can see her. All right, let's bless it, and then we'll taste it.